hence the word fitr, right? Fitr from, referring to the end of Ramadan, fitr, right? So sadaqatul fitr, also known as zakatul fitr, the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that was narrated, فرض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صدقة الفطر صاعا من تمر أو صاعا من شعير. Okay, على كل حر وعبد وذكر وأنثى to the end of the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said that it's an obligation, it is an obligation upon every person who is, whether they're male, female, a free man, a slave, doesn't matter, everyone has to pay sadaqatul fitr or zakatul fitr. And he said that it should be from a volumetric amount, which is like, you have like a little basin that you use, and you put that, there are certain things that are sold based on volume. No longer do they do it like that these days. Most of the time they do by weight. But back in the days, you used to do by volume. So you take that basin or that pot into the container, pull it out with rice, that's a salt. Pull it out with barley, that's a salt. Pull it out, dip it in the dates, that's a, or you fill enough dates to make up that amount, that's considered to be sa'an. So scholars say it's about 3 kilograms, which is about 6 pounds, a little more than 6 pounds. And the Prophet would give this right before he performed Salat al-Eid, and he would tell the Muslims to give it as well. And he mentioned why you should give it. He said that this form of sadaqah or this zakat, طُعْمَةً لِصَائِمٍ وَطُعْمَةً لِلْمَسَاكِينَ. It purifies the person who is fasting. The ulama say, how does it purify you? It makes up for any little deficiencies you had in your fast. Any little deficiency that you might have had in your fast. You guys want to remind me of some of the deficiencies that you might have in your fast? You accidentally might have ate something and you forgot, right? Even though it doesn't break your fast. It doesn't break your fast. But it is considered to be a form of a deficiency, right? What else?
Words that you use words that you shouldn't.
You said words that you shouldn't have said. Maybe you got angry with someone and used some words that you shouldn't have used. Looking at something, you look at something impermissible and stuff like that. But that look, it's considered to be a form of deficiency. What else? Anybody say anything? And there are many different forms of deficiencies, not controlling your anger, so on and so forth. Maybe you woke up, you didn't have sahur. It's part of the completion of your fast that you have sahur. So if you kind of wing it, it's not the best option, but it's still a legitimate fast, right? So all of these deficiencies, maybe you broke your fast 10 seconds earlier than you should have, right? Not knowing. When you give the sadaqah al-fitr, it expiates for those deficiencies. And the second benefit, وَطُحْمَةً لِلْمَسَاكِينَ. It is there to feed those who are poor and needy. Feed the poor and needy, the ones who, on the day of Eid, they will be without. So you want to make sure that on the day of Eid, they have food and they can celebrate and so on. طُحْمَةً لِلْمَسَاكِينَ. Those are the two benefits. So we know who the zakatul fitr should go to. Poor and needy. Right? We know how we benefit from it. It compensates for any deficiencies in our fast. And the Prophet says outline what should be given. However, you notice our masjid, we don't do that. We don't collect bags of rice. We don't say, hey brothers, I need you to bring a saw of barley or pasta. And we don't do that, right? And it's perfectly fine if there are communities who do that. It's perfectly fine. It's good, alhamdulillah. Right? Without a doubt, that's what the Prophet did. But the reason why we don't do that and we go with the value of it and we try to give the same money to the people that need it, and not in all cases like this the sadaqah al-fitr that we're going to give inshallah to send to Kenya to feed the orphanage. This money is going to be transformed to what? Food. Use that money to cook and buy the food and feed the needy, right? So it's going as food, right? But the reason why I think this is a better system, obviously only because of the times that we're living, we find that a lot of people And we should complete the hadith, the same hadith that I recited to you. The Prophet ﷺ added in one version of the hadith, he said, أَغْنُوهُمْ, meaning the poor people, make them rich on that day, meaning give them enough so that they don't need to ask for anything. They shouldn't be begging on the day of Eid. You're going out to the musalla to perform Salatul Eid. Here comes all the people begging. They shouldn't be begging. They should be dressed up and looking nice just like everyone else. Right? So they would have no need to ask on that day. So give them enough so that they don't need to ask. Scholars mention that part of the things that they need on the day of Eid is not only food. They also need clothes. They need to have some clothes so that they can clothe themselves. Right? So they said that even those things can help them as well. Can help them. Because we find, alhamdulillah, in many countries, right, the poor people, they have food. Okay, they have abundance of food. But what they're lacking are other things other than food. They may need money to purchase other things that can make life easy for them, right? And they will also need it on the day of Eid. And I always remember this, and I remember it's clearly, and this is what forced me to kind of take this opinion that sometimes the money is better than the food itself. I remember in Medina, every morning you wake up when you go to eat, you would have you would buy a nice bag of rice, right? And I would drive the day before. I would go to the neighborhoods where there are poor people. I would give them the bags. What do you think they all did with it? And these are really poor people. What do you think they did with the rice? They sold it back. How much rice are they going to use? How much rice are they going to use? Where are they going to store this rice? They got more rice than the baqala. They would go back and sell the same rice that I bought from the baqala. If I paid 10 riyals for a bag of rice, I would give it to the poor guy. The poor guy would go back to the baqala and sell it back for $5, 5 riyals. Because they want the money. The money is what's going to help them. So I realized the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is established with hikmah, with wisdom. At that time they needed the food. There are poor people who needed the food. In our times, most of them, alhamdulillah, they have food. You give them 2-3 bags of rice, that's enough for them. But don't give them 40-50 bags of rice. What are they going to do with it? Where are they going to store it? They have nowhere to store it. So it becomes now a problem. And you would find many people on the day of Eid, they will sit at the corner and a wall full of rice in front of them. Everybody's dropping rice. What do you think they're going to do with that rice? They didn't even have a means to transport it. They're going to go to the closest store, sell it, and get the money. And you can't blame them. That's what's going to benefit them. So that's why we follow the opinion that it's permissible to give the qima, the value of the sadaqah al-fitr, which we said is about $15, inshallah. And that's what we're going to follow, inshallah ta'ala. We'll distribute it. If someone comes and they need food or whatever, they can take the money and buy whatever food they want to buy. And then another thing is, you might give people rice and they're like, I don't eat that much rice. I prefer pasta or I prefer something else. They can use the money and buy whatever they want, inshallah. So that's our opinion. That's why we take this opinion. And it's the opinion of many scholars as well. Some of them still stick, alhamdulillah. They stick with the traditional way of giving the food, and that's fine. If they know that there's a need for the food, but if we see that there's no major need for it. Alright? Especially in our community. There might be a family that comes and they're poor and needy and they need help in other ways. Right? They have enough food, alhamdulillah, but they're still poor and needy. And they need help in other ways, we can use the money to help them in that way, inshallah ta'ala. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to help us to give this sadaqah al-fitr for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. We ask Allah to accept it from us so that we can purify ourselves in our fasting. Inshallah, tomorrow night we're going to distribute tally up whatever we had from the sadaqah al-fitr and send it out, inshallah. So if you guys didn't give it now, now is probably the best time to give it, inshallah, right? Before tomorrow, yeah.
So, can you give the sadaqah for your kids?
Right, so, good question.
If they have a part-time job.
So good question. So the way it works is the head of the household gives for himself and everyone else within the household that's considered to be a dependent. Right? So if a husband and wife lives together and they have 3 kids, for instance, or 2 kids, husband and wife, 2 kids, he would give for himself, his wife, and his 2 kids.
So
even if they have a job.
Oh.
Even if they have a job, you still give it. Sadaqah al-fitr is normally the head of the household that gives it. Right? But if, for instance, one of them works and he says, you know, I want to give my own sadaqah, he can give. They can give it if they want. But the responsibility is on the head of the household, inshallah.
Can you give for your parents, the dead parents, deceased parents?
No, we don't give sadaqah al-fitr for the dead relatives and so on. It's for those who are alive living in the house. Because it's to purify those who fasted. So although they passed, they're no longer in this world. So they're not fasting, they didn't have any deficiencies in the fast. But when it comes to your ancestors or dead grandparents or parents who passed away, you can give general sadaqah on behalf of them. General sadaqah. General sadaqah. You can't give zakatul mal, you cannot give zakatul fitr on behalf of your relatives who passed, but you can give general sadaqah. Like the masjid building project, if you want to donate something, sponsor a door on behalf of my aunt or my grandfather or whoever, you can do that. That is very well established in the religion, inshallah. Any other questions? Yes, so the scholar said that you can give as well if the mother is pregnant and there's a baby, you're expecting a baby, inshallah, you can give for them. It's not an obligation, but you can give for them. Inshallah, I think it's a good practice. And even if you give, and let's say you didn't really have to give. Let's say, for instance, there's someone that you didn't really have to give, but you give a little bit extra. It doesn't hurt, right? When it comes to giving charity, it never hurts. If it's not considered to be fard, it is sunnah, you'll be rewarded for it, inshallah. جزاك الله خيرا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.